Police Minister Bheki Cele has landed in Pietermaritzburg this morning following the recent politically related killings in the area. Cele expected to meet with the task team investigating the murder of EFF councillor candidate for Ward 20, Thulani Shangase, who was shot and killed on Sunday. He will also be paying his respects to Shangase's family. Let's get the latest now. Our reporter Karinda Jagmohan. Karinda, very good morning to you. I see there's lots of movement where you are. The police minister, has he been making rounds there already?
Indeed, good day to you. Well, actually, the police minister is now addressing family members of Thulani Shangase and speaking in a low voice because the address is ongoing. So I'm going to pop my mic and you can hear a bit of what he says, and then we'll just also review what has happened so far. My colleague Thulani Zuma just showing you visuals of the family. Let's hear what the minister has to say.
I'll just try to start to see charge.
So, Oli, as we just give the police minister some time to brief the family, I'd like to just take you back to what happened here. It was on Sunday afternoon when EFF councillor candidate for the Umsunduzi Ward 20 that we are in was gunned down. He was attending a local branch meeting for the EFF just nearby, and he had left that meeting and two shots were fired at him, one on his head and one just around his shoulder, neck area. Sadly, he passed away at the scene, and his family alleges that this was a politically motivated killing. But of course, investigations are still underway to determine the cause of his death, and of course, arrests are yet to be made. But what is a cause for concern here is that this is the third alleged politically motivated attack in KwaZulu-Natal during this election season campaign. Last month, we saw the brazen attack on an ANC branch meeting or ANC community meeting with residents in Inanda in Durban, where 3 women were killed. Only there were community members in that area attending that ANC branch meeting and had come under fire. Arrests in that regard are still yet to be made. And then we saw last week the death of a councillor within the eThekwini Ward 101, a councillor candidate, as well as another ANC member were gunned down just after a door-to-door campaign. They were shot dead there. That killing also suspected to be politically motivated. And then, of course, this tragic death of the EFF's Thulani Shangase. Now, what we see here in KwaZulu-Natal in the run-up to the local government elections just days from now is similar incidents that we saw being played in 2016 during that local government elections, where there are a number of possibly politically motivated murders of councillor candidates within wards that were being contested. Now here what we have, you can see, is the police minister coming maybe to provide some sort of comfort to the family. He's speaking to them, addressing them and hearing their cause for concerns regarding the murder that has taken place. What's interesting here is that this family says they are ANC members, but it was Shangase who left to join the EFF because he wasn't happy with the ANC operations in this area. And some of the EFF members that we spoke to earlier this week told us that they were concerned about the fact that Shangase could have been deemed a threat by his opponents in this contestation for ward councillorship because of the work he was doing in this community. So that is what has happened so far. We're yet to hear from the police minister on his updates, though, regarding the task team that has been appointed to investigate and whether they have yielded any results yet.
It's interesting that you touch on the task team, because perhaps one of the questions that is going to have to be asked of the police minister, and this is something that he probably is going to be very happy about, is that a notorious KwaZulu-Natal hitman was actually found guilty yesterday, a Mr. Fisogu Ntuli. He was found guilty by the regional court in Eskaleni. This is in Richards Bay, and this is why this is important, Karinda, and that is that this man is alleged to have been found guilty for the murder of an ANC ward councillor for the killings that were taking place back in 2016. And add to this, this is also a kicker here, that he was also charged with the murder of former Bafana Bafana goalkeeper Senzo Meyiwa. This is absolutely critical, and the police minister is going to have to give us a comment here as to whether this person, because how this report is written, and I'm reading a report here, Karinda, on News 24. It says that this Mr. Fisoguhle Ntuli was found guilty for the 2016 murder of an ANC ward councillor, but that he was also charged with the murder of the former Bafana Bafana goalkeeper. I wonder whether the convictions would include that he had been charged with Senzo Meyiwa's killing.
Well, indeed, definitely. What is interesting to note is that this is a 26 murder that the perpetrator was convicted of. What's interesting to note is that this task team has been investigating these killings for a while, and that conviction only being made 5 years later after the incident, after this murder. But also, as you mentioned, a seemingly network of alleged hitmen operating in this area. And what will be interesting for the police ministers to speak about is their investigations into what seems to be the proliferation of alleged hitmen operating in KwaZulu-Natal. Who are they taking orders from? Who is the mastermind here? What and how are they being paid? And whether or not police can really infiltrate what seems to be a network or a syndicate of alleged assassins that are being able to take orders and carry out these killings, whether it be politically related or for other motives in KwaZulu-Natal. But it seems like there is a major issue here of murders that is taking place, but also the proliferation of illegal firearms as well that has been used in these murders. Indeed, these are questions we will be asking the police minister, as well as what really is the operations of the task team that was set up to investigate and convict in these political killings that we have seen being taking place from 2016. A conviction for a murder then only occurring now. Whether or not the police and that task team is able to yield results or how they're operating, these are answers that the minister must surface to or must actually surface to the public at this point, especially because we hear that on the ground many councillor candidates now in the run-up to the local government elections are fearing their lives. It's understood that some parties are increasing their own security for their councillor candidates, but at the end of the day it seems that there is operations within KwaZulu-Natal that allows for these murders to take place, and whether or not that task team is actually able to bust into the syndicate. Do they have the budget and the capacity to do this? And how quickly can they get up to speed with actually looking into how it is so that alleged hitmen are able to operate in KwaZulu-Natal for whatever reason it may be. I mean, we're at the Glebelands hostel just yesterday. That hostel itself, during the Morane Commission that was set up to investigate the political killings of 2016, pointed out to that hostel, describing it as ground zero for alleged political hitmen. So there's still a lot of work to be done on the ground in terms of killings, murders as a whole when it comes to politics in KwaZulu-Natal. Many answers for the minister, many questions for the minister to answer today, who's just gone inside to speak to the Shangase family, and we believe after he comes out he will be briefing the media, so we'll be bringing you those updates and of course asking him those very important questions about the lives of people in KwaZulu-Natal at the end of the day.
Karinda, I think you and I are going to have a longish conversation here, because the article I was referring to on News 24, it's astounding what is being reported here, and you speak specifically about the proliferation or the ease with which hitmen are available in KwaZulu-Natal, and perhaps this might be one of the reasons why they operate almost with impunity. So this person who was found guilty yesterday, you've got to listen to this very carefully, because the people who were coming, who were willing to come forward as witnesses to testify against him in court, and they are basically labeled in the article as the Zulu brothers. These were people with the surname Zulu, and it's about, I think, 3 brothers in total. Their names: Sbusiso Mcebisi and Sbusiso Elvis. Okay, now they were killed in January of 2017, and this killer, he finished his reign of terror with Spamandla Zungu, who was killed in August of 2018. Now, the prosecutor here, Karinda, Mr. Cyril Silepe, was commenting yesterday, stating that he was really thankful to those witnesses who were brave enough to ultimately come forward and make sure that this killer is sent to jail, because the modus operandi became that after he had executed this murder, all the witnesses were then targeted. And so anyone who would have wished to come forward as a witness to testify against him, they would have been running scared. And perhaps this is why they do what they do with impunity, and they probably don't even enter prison, because witnesses are eliminated in the process.
Indeed. Actually, as I speak back to my colleague Thulani Shangase, I was just going to also show you a lay of what's happening around us. But you are right. The issue of protection for whistleblowers has been a very strong one, especially after we saw the murder of a whistleblower in the Gauteng Health Department, Babita Deokaran. She was gunned down, and it's alleged that she had very important information about alleged corruption there. But what we see is that there is now more and more requests to assist whistleblowers who are trying to speak out about whether it be corruption or, in this case, the political killings and political attacks that are happening in KwaZulu-Natal, in other areas as well. In fact, we have seen that there have been whistleblowers in this province that are related to speaking out about these political killings that have been asking for protection but not necessarily receiving that, and in their own right have been going into hiding. But this is something that the minister must speak about as well, is that as we seeing the increase of political attacks in our province, how is it going to help the task team to further investigate this if people are not receiving protection to be able to speak out and assist police with their investigations? That is, as you mentioned, some of the major concerns here with regards to trying to really go into the heart of this apparent syndicate of political killings in KwaZulu-Natal, whether or not the police are capable of investigating themselves, whether there's corruption within the police force as well. It is extremely important for the minister to become more transparent on this, because as we head up now, there's just almost, I believe, 2 weeks until the November 1st election. And this is already the third such attack in KwaZulu-Natal. Like I mentioned, councillor candidates are now fearing for their lives, especially in areas that are hotly contested, and that's what we're seeing now because of its seemingly public concerns over the ANC's work across the province. Many people are upset over lack of service delivery in many parts of the country, in KwaZulu-Natal as well. It seems like other political parties are taking advantage of this public discussion, and that is how wards are becoming more and more hotly contested, wherein we see now that people are actually looking to other political parties, and it could be that because of this political tension, especially gearing up to this local government election, where it seems that the public narrative is divided now between the ruling party and others in terms of what people are offering, that hotly contested election now dissolving into these political attacks that we are seeing here in KwaZulu-Natal. And it remains to be seen what is going to happen over the next 2 weeks. I'm interested to ask the minister early about whether or not we're going to see more police in our province over the course of the next 2 weeks. In fact, I did ask him this last month when we were in Inanda, when the first political attack during this election campaign season happened. 3 women were killed there. I asked him about whether or not the task team that police has to look into political killings will increase their deployment on the ground ahead of local government elections. He actually pointed out at that point that members of the South African National Defence Force are still operating on the ground following COVID-19 as well as the July unrest. While he does not have the authority to urge those SANDF members to actually participate in securing election areas or areas regarding hotly contested areas, It seems like this is a request that he wants to make, is to ask SANDF soldiers to be on the ground for that. So this is something that we'll also be asking him, is are we going to see more police in the area following what we are seeing on the ground? Now it seems also family members are now speaking to media as well, so we're going to see what some of the family members here have to say with regards to what has happened so far. And of course, when the police minister comes through, we're going to give you more updates from him as well.
Ukusetshenziswa kwamarenki nokusebenza kodrive ukuthi konje abaphuzi besebenza nezinto zonke ezingasile ezenzeka emgaqweni. So-ke uShangase ungomunye ke walabo bantu bekade besenza lo msebenzi. Indoda kade ivuye ekuseni ngo-5 iyokwenza lo msebenzi insuku zonke izibuye ngabo-8. Mawukhona kade engaboni khona kahle ubenganqeni ukuthi afake ucingo okuthini ekutheni eyi naku kwento ezifana le yini esingayenza bese siyamtshela noma sisuke siya khona somlekelela. So njengoba namhlanje kwenzeke lento kuyena siphatheka kakhulu andasazi sokwenza njani, kodwa ngifuna ukuqinisekisa ukuthi bonke abantu basemgundlovu kade bemkhonze kakhulu umsebenzi wakhe. So-ke sigxemeke nje engeqwantwana esingazi soyivala kanjani ngoba ube umuntu obaluleke kakhulu empilweni zabantu bamatekisi emgundlovu.
Ngabe kuthini ukuphala kwakho ngalesigaba indlela aboleke ngayo, mhlawumbe ngabe khona enibasolayo nina njengemboni noma mhlawumbe niyazi ukuthi anithinte?
No, ngesisho ukuthi khona sibasolayo ngoba kulezi nsuku kwenziwa ama-campaign osopolitiki naye omunye kade ekhona futhi kwenye inhlangano yezepolitiki, kodwa-ke ngiyacabanga ukuthi asikhona ukwethu ukukhuluma kwipolitiki kwathina sisebenza indaba yamatekisi. Amaphoyisa azokwazi ukubona ukuthi azothi mayebheka atholeni bese kwenzeka.
Well, Antoli, this is of course then a family member of Thulani Shangase. Just speaking, Thulani Shangase, the EFF councillor candidate in the Msunduzi Ward 20 area who was gunned down. This is his home. We're here today. And the family member just speaking about the fact that Shangase was doing campaigns in this area and the death that occurred. Shangase was gunned down at around 5 o'clock on Sunday after attending a local branch meeting. He apparently had received a cell phone call, and once he left that building where the branch meeting was happening, I would understand it was also a tuck shop area, there were unknown gunmen that attacked him and fired 2 shots and fled the scene. Arrests are yet to be made. When the incident happened, the police said a 72-hour turnaround plan had been actioned to find the perpetrators of this attack. The minister is yet to announce on whether any arrests have been made with this regard, but again, what we are seeing now is the increase almost of attacks on political candidates. And again, the minister, once he comes out to answer with regards to what has happened so far, we'll be asking him a range of questions, including what is that task team doing on the ground, as well as whether whistleblowers are going to receive protection, and really, are we really looking into the syndicate of alleged political assassins in KZN?
Karinda Jagmohan doing great work on the ground. She has her ear to the ground. She is certainly going to bring us that conversation with the police minister when he does become available.